Encounter is brought to you by the Broome County Council of Churches, where we connect compassion with needs as we inspire growth with dignity. You'll find us in special places throughout the community. For those who remain hungry, we provide meals. For those who are challenged, we build wheelchair ramps. We comfort those who are ill, minister to those who are confined, and we remain an advocate for change and understanding on behalf of every element of our community. Connect and inspire. Encounter the Broome County Council of Churches.
Good morning, I'm Jeff Kellam, your host today on Encounter. I'm the Parish Associate, it says at the bottom of the screen, at the Union Presbyterian Church in Endicott. I guess most people of faith have spent some time at camps and conferences in their faith life. Young people especially go to summer camp, for example, for a week maybe, or maybe for all summer. And then the larger conferences that many denominations and church groups have draw people from sometimes all over the world. I went to church camp for a couple of years in high school. I was not a swimmer, so getting into a dirty old lake and having fun in the water didn't appeal to me. But Watson Homestead in Painted Post was like a motel with a pool. So yeah, I went for a couple of years. 20 years later, I was the keynote speaker at the Mann Youth Conference when I was in youth ministry. And then a few years after that, I was a group leader at the Presbyterian Youth Triennium. Even as an adult, those experiences were energizing for my faith. And you can imagine what they are for young people who leave their home situations, the routine of school and family and church, and wind up in some place that's so exciting and, again, energizing in terms of building their faith and encouraging them as they walk in the footsteps of Jesus. Well, the Presbyterian Youth Triennium was held this past summer, Triennium, every 3 years, and we have invited 3 people to tell us about it. One of them is the Reverend Pat Raube. Pat is a familiar face and voice on Encounter, having been a guest many times. And then I have 2 youth from the Union Presbyterian Church who are part of Pat's congregation. One of them is Brianna, Attey, and then Nathan, Mann, and they were participants in the Triennium. So this was an exciting experience, and I think even for folks who are listening who have never been to church camp or never been to a conference where 5,000 teenagers from all over the world gather. Now this is high school, right? Pat, this is your second time. Describe what the Triennium, what's the purpose of it, and why does the denomination sponsor such a thing?
Jeff, my understanding is that Presbyterian Triennium came about as an attempt to create an experience for the youth that would in a way mirror some of the adult conferences that we get to go through, such as our General Assembly, in terms of the excitement that you feel when you get to sing a hymn, but it's not just you and 50 people, it's you and 5,000 people. Or to get to hear speakers who aren't necessarily going to come to your small town and come to your church. To experience ways of worship that maybe a church that's used to using organ for most of its music is not accustomed to doing. So Youth Triennium came about and they created this incredibly, just as you said, energizing experience where people could hear new voices, experience new ways of worship, and connect with each other, other students from all over the world. And the age group is entering high school to leaving high school. Wow. That's our age group for Triennium.
Right. So the two of you, when you heard about Triennium, what were you kind of expecting? Did you expect this to be exciting and fun, or did you expect it to be kind of a week-long church thing?
At first, I was a little bit apprehensive because I was like, okay, there's going to be a lot of people, and you don't know how people are going to react to the way that you introduce yourself or the way that you act. But the way that Reverend Pat explained what it was going to be about really excited me. Yeah. So it was easy to be like, okay, I can do this, and it's not going to be a scary experience.
Yeah. Nathan?
Well, when she first brought it up, I was like, I don't know if I want to do this or why I would want to do it. And then I was like, I got to meeting the people that we're going with, and I was like, a little bit better. Then I actually got on the bus and I'm like, oh, this will be fun.
Good. Yeah, well, if you've never been to a conference like this, I mean, you've been away from home, but now this is a whole different thing. And I guess getting on the bus and having some fun on the way. You didn't drive straight from Endicott to Purdue University. Did we mention it was at Purdue University? You know, huge campus in West Lafayette, Indiana. So you didn't drive straight through. What?
We stopped in Michigan in a town called Milan, and we stayed overnight at a church called People's Presbyterian Church, where they hosted us and gave us great hospitality and broke up that, I think it's a 13, 14-hour drive.
Yeah.
So that we...
That was a long drive.
It's a long drive, so that we could arrive refreshed. But it also gave us a chance...
Still very tired.
Yes. It still gave us a chance to get to know each other, though, as well. And we had youth from our presbytery, Susquehanna Valley, as well as the Cayuga-Syracuse Presbytery on that bus, as well as all their chaperones. So we took some time to get to know each other on the way.
How many people in the bus?
Almost 40, I think
Yeah.
it
Oh,
was.
Yeah.
and there were also international partners that came with the Cayuga-Syracuse delegation. So they were from South Korea.
Okay, so that does make it an international community. And then when you got there, of course, on this campus with 5,000 other
There was a lot
teenagers.
Of people. A lot
Yeah.
of people.
And but a lot of them from around the world, from different cultures and different countries.
That's right.
Maybe we ought to just dive into what the day is like, you know, at this conference. Who wants to start?
Okay. So basically, over the 4 days that we were there, the timetable was always the same. So in the morning you'd wake up, you'd go to the dining hall and you'd eat. The food was amazing. And I'm still dreaming about it.
This is campus food we're talking about. Yeah.
And after you ate, you'd go to small group. And so basically what small group was you had a small group leader that you didn't know. So everybody in the room was a stranger. And so over the 4 days, you got to know everybody in your small group through all the different exercises that we were doing. And so the small groups basically set us up for what we were going to be doing during worship. And so we went through like all these sort of like mystery scavenger hunts to figure out to understand what happens during like Bible passages and why Jesus told certain parables, or why certain characters in the Bible or certain people in the Bible did certain things, and how to it just really opened up what you were going to be doing with other people.
So you didn't stay within your group. All the groups that are coming from all over the U.S. and other places are now divided up into small groups made up of people from all over. So you have to get to know them as a kind of support thing, and that prepares you then for worship. What was worship like?
It was very there was a lot of people there for the same reason. Well, that could be said about the whole trip. And it was very energizing. It was all the energy everybody had, even if you were a bad singer, you get drowned out in how many people, even if you sang super loud, you would get drowned out,
right,
because there's 5,000 other people there, singing the same thing you are, and it's just it felt amazing, and I got goosebumps almost every day.
Yep. Wow. Yep. And the music is, some of it was all new to you because they taught you the songs, right?
Yeah.
I only knew 1 or 2 songs, and that's it.
Yeah. But you learned the songs while you're there and probably bring them back and probably sing them on the bus.
Yeah. Well, and worship, so they had a band. They had a little band called the Nettletons, which is kind of an in-joke for people who know about Presbyterian hymns, because our theme for the week was "Here's My Heart," which is from the hymn "Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing," and Nettleton is the tune for that hymn. So we had this great band that led us in music, and led us in music that was kind of across genres. There we did some traditional type of hymns. We did some stuff that was really pop, rock anthems.
Sure.
Fantastic percussion, stuff that made you move, stuff that made you, want to sway along with the people next to you. And it did give you goosebumps.
Yeah.
It's an amazing
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. You know, as a more or less an introvert, when I first went to Triennium, the energizers were, and I'm kind of more like, I'll sit and watch what everybody else is doing, but you don't get a chance to do that, do you?
No. No. If you were sitting down, somebody
especially in the middle.
Yeah.
if you were sitting down, somebody would probably like pull you up to like make sure
Right.
that you were okay.
Right.
But
right.
The speakers and the pastors were amazing. I just loved the messages that they put out about how to like open your heart, because when you're in that sort of setting, everybody's thinking in a church sort of, you know, mindset, whereas when the speakers came in, you really got like the worldly view. So with all the issues that are going on right now, like racial injustice and climate change, and just basically I guess you could say also divisions within the church and how to combat that.
Right, right. So that's worship, and you said worship lasted like 2 hours, which for Presbyterians is about.
It was long, but like it was like worth it.
Yeah, yeah.
You didn't care?
No.
It didn't even
'Cause it
feel
was
like
great.
2 hours.
Right.
It didn't feel like 2 hours.
Well, it starts
Kind of
with,
wish it was longer. Some of the days I wish it was longer.
man, that's something.
Yeah.
So after worship, and we can go back to that too, but I want to keep going with the general theme of the day. So after worship, then what? Lunch?
We usually have lunch before worship, because like if you went to worship hungry, you probably wouldn't be paying attention.
That would not have been fun.
Okay, all right.
But the food was still good and was
Yeah.
amazing. After worship, we usually had recreation time. And so that was the time where we usually exchanged pins with each other.
So the pins, these are the little metal pins
Yes.
that represent each presbytery and each group that came?
Yeah, each delegation.
Yeah, so how many pins did you wind up with?
I think a little over 50 pins, but I didn't bring all of them
We got
because I didn't
50
want to
pins.
lose.
And
I got
Nathan,
like-
how many did you get?
I got a lot, but like, it was not 50. I got one from like almost 30 different states. There was a lot.
Yeah,
of
yeah.
different states. Like some of them were really good, and some of them were.
Did you all design a pin to take, to
Yeah,
share?
I have it right here.
Okay.
And so we wanted to stick with the theme, like, here's my heart. So we just basically took that one Bible passage that states, love the Lord your God with all your soul, mind, heart, and
Right.
strength.
Oh, so that's the brain, the pink brain on it. See, I recognize it.
represent the
Okay,
mind.
so we're looking at a pin that's got a heart, a muscle,
Yeah.
and a representation of Jesus, I guess. And then the image of the brain.
Yeah.
The heart, by the way, is not a biological heart, of course.
It's a,
It's a biological brain. But let's not go too far from the conversation. I'll reintroduce our guest. The Reverend Pat Raube is from the Union Presbyterian Church. She went as a chaperone, and she had her hands full, not with these two teenagers, but with all the kids from the presbytery who went. Nathan Mann, who is in the midst of football practice at UE, and Brianna Attey, who is in the midst of band practice, I guess.
tennis.
What?
Tennis.
Oh, tennis.
Yes.
Oh, so you're not, the band isn't
Yeah.
practicing it. Okay. All right. So now we've reached the afternoon, I guess, and there were interest groups. Now tell me, I'm not going to ask Nathan because he didn't go any, but tell me about the interest groups.
So I think it was the third or fourth day. Basically the PCUSA, Presbyterian Church USA, came in with all of their representatives from all of the committees that we have. Because,
Yeah.
you know, as Presbyterians, we have a lot of committees. And so
Yes,
you
we
got
do.
to choose what sort of interest groups you were interested in. So there was an interest group about mission. There was an interest group about the Young Adult Volunteers program that we have. And there was another interest group about race, like the Committee of Race and Reconciliation that the Presbyterian Church has. And there was another one that focused more on youth-led movements. So I went to the one about youth-led movements and also the one about the Committee of Race and Reconciliation.
Right, right.
And so with the Committee not the committee, but the interest group about youth-led movements, basically the goal of that interest group was to explain to kids and also pastors that really want to, make a difference in anything that they're interested in, like how they should go about doing that with a faithful mindset.
Right.
And so basically, a lot of the movements that they were talking about were like, climate change movements, racial justice movements, female rights movements. And so it was just nice to be able to sit in a room with people that were enthusiastic about these sorts of things.
Yeah.
Because when you go back out into the secular world, people kind of act like they don't care. When in reality, everybody really does, but they don't want to act like they care too much because they don't want to, draw attention to themselves.
Right.
But yeah, that's basically what that interest group was about, and it was really insightful.
Okay. And was there Bible study? What?
There was. So there was Bible study at the small group in the morning, but then also we met as a delegation. We had delegation group, which was our Presbyterian group, and we did that every afternoon.
Oh, that's kind of the back home group.
That's right, back home with all the people you know.
That was really fun.
Yeah.
We did have fun. We did really unusual kinds of Bible studies that were planned for us, that were described to us how to do it. Nathan, do you want to tell us about the one where we weren't able to talk?
Oh my God. That was really hard. I could barely do that.
But I picture you as a pretty quiet guy.
Yeah, but sometimes if I'm around certain people, it comes out a lot.
So we had the Bible passage in front of us, and they were on pieces of paper that we could write on.
Right.
So we read it, and then we started commenting by writing on it and asking each other questions. And so what was the Bible passage was it the lost coin or the lost sheep?
I had no clue.
One group was doing the lost coin, and the other part of the room was doing the lost sheep.
Yeah.
From passages from Luke 15.
This is fun.
and Nathan's group, at one point, Nathan wrote on it. Do you remember what you wrote on it, Nathan? Because I do. It's Jesus saying what? I'm never gonna give you up.
What are you saying?
He's getting prompted here.
He wrote, I'm never gonna give you up. I'm never gonna stop. He basically quoted
The song.
The song, yes. And I just felt that Nathan won Bible study that day.
I won Bible study every day.
There was
I think
another group. We were doing the lost coin parable, and so each group got their own parable, and so you got to pass each sheet around so that everybody got their thoughts out. And so one person wrote about the woman that lost the coin.
Yeah.
Why didn't she just turn the lights on? And so we were like, okay, this was a couple thousand years ago.
Right.
I mean, I don't think they had.
But you hear these stories from childhood on up.
Yeah.
And rarely do we have a chance to sit down and open them up.
Yeah.
So this was terrific. Why turn the light on? Well, and what did the coin look like? But what's the point of the story?
Digging deep.
So you dig deep. Yeah, that's wonderful.
It was.
There must have been some recreation.
Yeah.
Frisbee, ultimate frisbee, and
We did play it was like a 3-sided frisbee.
a what?
It was I don't know how to
3
explain.
teams?
It was like a circle, and it had it was foam, I can't explain it.
Okay.
Well, we did that at one of the days, and it was really fun because we just threw it around, and we accidentally threw it on stage and almost hit a couple people.
Yeah. We have insurance for that kind of thing.
What did you do for recreation?
So what I mostly did during recreation was just meeting people.
Yeah.
I'd say one thing that surprised me during Triennium was that there were a lot of people of color. People of color mostly, because going to UPC as a church, there's a lot of white people that you're around, and so seeing how people take their culture and then embed it in the way that they worship is really nice. Because my parents are immigrants, so meeting other people that are also first generation was really great, and being able to bond.
Yes.
And we're still in contact, which is nice.
Yep.
So.
Well, I think, on a smaller level, I remember when we would go off to church in Richmond, Virginia. I'd take my family to church, and you'd see other people backing out of their driveways and going to church, and they were going to different churches. And I think I pointed that out to my kids and said, other people go to church too. Other people have faith too. We just don't all go to the same church. Well, there's a sense in which we do have these things in common. Mm-hmm. Well, when you go to something like the Youth Triennium, 5,000 other people from around the world, now you're going to find some other things that you have in common with people besides just going to church. Mm-hmm. You find cultural issues, racial issues, mm-hmm. and then your concerns about gun violence, for example. Mm-hmm. And there was probably some discussion there about some of the current issues that mm-hmm. people are concerned about and praying about. And mm-hmm. now we find some handles maybe for dealing mm-hmm. with some of those issues at the Triennium. Talk about, apart from the structure and the schedule, what about the personal relationships? You must have met people there and kept in touch. And
I still have contact with a couple of people.
Yeah.
Like these two girls who are in college. One who lives like a city over. And I still play like Xbox with one of them, and I still talk to a couple of them, like every once in a while.
So there are some lasting friendships that build out of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
Oh, so I took a kind of like an Instamax picture, I think, with one of the girls that I met. Her name is Kayla.
Yeah.
And like we really bonded, which was awesome. And so we usually just send like memes to each other on social media and stuff. So it's fun.
And go ahead.
I was just going to say, to keep in touch while we were on campus, we kind of take it for granted that people have phones, but not all the phones were syncing up with the wireless there for whatever reason, with the Wi-Fi. But we figured out that if we all were in a Snapchat group, that we could talk on the Snapchat.
That was really funny.
So what that meant was most of the adults had to download the Snapchat app for the first
time in their lives
and figure out how to use it, which I am still figuring out how to use it. Yeah. But it was a really nice way because everybody could just post, what they're doing, where they're going to this group, and it would inform the adults, and kids would know how to get together in different places.
Sure.
And it was very helpful. But we, social media kind of came to the rescue in that sense, so that while we're on this huge campus, we can keep track of where everybody is.
Sure. And keeping track when you get back home too, the Susquehanna Valley group is going to continue to meet, because there were some people from Northminster Church there and from some of the other. They've already met. They had a gathering at Northminster Church a couple weeks ago. And did you guys both get to go to that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
And then we went to see The Lion King.
The theme again was what?
Here's my heart.
Here's my heart. So tell me about the heart part. That is, the faith, what did it do to your heart or your faith at the end of the week? How did it make you feel?
It made me feel relieved, because it's like everybody has all these pent up, preconceived notions that we have about others. And so being able to interact with so many people at once allowed us to be like, oh, people aren't so bad. Even though we all, believe in this one thing, it doesn't mean that, we can't have our differences, but our differences aren't supposed to divide us. And so, just bringing God in, and, if you bring God in, then you're bringing other people in. That's basically what.
Right.
Nathan.
I'm sorry. Wait, what was the question again?
The question was, what does this do to your faith? How's your faith different than when you went?
I'm currently still trying to figure that out. It was a lot. It was a lot to take in, and I'm still trying to take it in.
Right.
About how much fun I had.
Yeah.
When I'm gonna take it away from it.
Yeah, well, and that's one of the things that you would hope would be prompted.
Yeah.
Is you've got a lot of stuff to take in, and it takes a lot of time to adjust.
It does.
To to weigh it all and to measure it. And what a great place to go and ask questions.
Yes.
Because not everybody goes with, everybody's at a different place in their faith journey. And just recognizing that among all these different people, realizing that you've got a lot in common with a whole lot of folks who are now not afraid to ask some questions about their faith.
I feel like Triennium is a place where questions were welcomed. Sorry, Nathan, didn't mean to step on you.
Also, I'm just like, it's just like, it all comes back to me every once in a while. It's just like all the memories that I have.
Yeah.
All the memories that everybody made. And like, all the pictures that we have, and all the pictures. It was just like, I just remember it. And it was like, it was probably one of the funnest weeks of my life.
Yeah.
And it was like, it was amazing because all the people we got to spend it with.
Yeah.
And all the people we got to meet. And yeah.
Yep.
That's true for me too.
Yeah.
I come home from that feeling like my faith has been challenged and opened up.
Huh.
And I want to bring it home with me.
Well, I'll bet that happens to a lot of the adults who go
Yep.
as group leaders,
Yep.
as chaperones, as the people, the presenters on stage. There's not a person who comes back from an experience like this without being touched in some way. And I think we do want to hold on to those memories. And every once in a while, something kicks in, you're going to hear a song that's going to say, ah, Triennium, I remember that, or whatever. Or singing that hymn,
Yes.
you know, come thou fount of every blessing.
Yes.
Well, our guests today have been Nathan Mann, who is, again, he's going to go from here to football practice probably. And then Brianna Attey, who is, these are both teenagers from Union Presbyterian Church, a
Both
church
going
with
into
which I'm
11th grade.
going to 11th.
Boy.
Both of them. Yeah.
And Nathan, are you going into what grade?
11.
Both 11. And then Pat Raube is the pastor at the church, my pastor there. And thank you all for coming on. I wanted to do this while this is still warm and fresh for you. And I know that it will be for some time to come. And I want to thank you for joining us for the Encounter program. The Broome County Council of Churches makes it possible along with WBNG TV. And our thanks also to the Town Square Media radio stations for carrying the program each week. I'm Jeff Kellam, hoping that in the coming week you will be gentle with people and with yourself.